You could take it different directions. I think the kapitel splits into three parts. Others say this as well. The Lord reigns, he is robed in majesty. The Lord is robed, girded with strength. The word is firmly established, it cannot be moved. Your throne stands firm as of old, you are eternal. That's the first part. Basically, it's saying that God is king. God was always king before creation. And God is adorns God's self with strength and might. And God establishes the earth. So basically, God's in charge. God is above everything, obviously, but God girds himself in strength and power and establishes the world. That's kind of like setting the stage. It's like it's a truth statement. God is strong. God is king. God is, and all these are clothing, adornments of God. They're the way that God acts in the world. Okay. Then the capital goes into giving an example for that. And it goes into, this is when we read, Mikolot Ma'im Rabim Adirim Mishberayam. We read that, we say that in shul. So it goes on to give an example. What's the example? It's from the rivers. Rivers will lift up, Lord. Rivers will lift up their voice. Rivers lift up their crashing waves. Okay, so all these rivers, so some say this is talking about creation, when God set the firmament within the seas. So there's raging waters, and they're very powerful. They're making noise. They're crashing. Nevertheless, God is more powerful than those crashing waves, than those strong forces of nature. That's what it says here. Mightier than the noise of many waters, than the mighty waves of the sea is the Lord on high. So God's stronger. So let's bring a practical example of that. And then the third part seems to be a different, almost like a different theme here. It's not talking about nature. It's not talking about God's might. It's just basically a kind of a commitment to God and an affirmation of God's testimonies. Your testimonies are very sure. Holiness adorns your house, Lord, forevermore. So what do we do with this third part? It's not so clear. I think maybe you could read the third part something like this. Edotecha ne'enu me'od. It's talking about God's testimonies. It could be like the testimonies in the Tanakh, which speak about God's strength. All of them are right. I see it. I see it from your strength in nature. Or it could be that it's a commitment to the Torah. I see your strength. I see your strength in nature, and that's going to propel me to observe your testimonies and to connect to them. And then it's also going to make your house Nava Kodesh, which could be, it's proper for it to be sanctified, meaning it's proper for us to serve God in the temple as a result of that, and that will be forevermore. So basically, if you read it like this, you could read it. This is one way to read it. God's powerful, God's strong, God's already from before the earth was created, God was king, and God established the world. An example of God's power is in relation to the rivers and the mighty and the power and the noise of the rivers and the breaking rivers. God's stronger than all them, and that encourages the King David to commit to the testimonies, to want to be in the temple. So maybe the message here is that we can come close to God in many ways. One such way is to see God's greatness in nature. When you realize how great God is, that can bring you to want to commit yourself to God's testimonies, God's edot, which is like ediot, which is God's Torah, and to God's temple. And so that's one way to read it. And I think we saw this in recent months, last 2 years. Many people felt very, protected by God, very connected to the nation through everything that was going on in Israel. And that forged a stronger connection for a lot of people. They saw God's strength, they saw God's miracles, and that created them a little bit of more of a connection and affiliation with the Torah. So through God's strength, through God's oz and gut lavesh, God's glory, whatever the translation is, that majesty, we can come through that to connecting the Torah on a deeper level. Perhaps that's what we're saying when we read this psalm. So that's one way to read it. Others connect this to the future days, and others connected to the miracle at the sea. So those are three different ways: connect to the past, future, or the miracle at the sea. I went connecting it to the past.